Johanna's here, but let's make sure she's got audio. Johanna, can you do a sound check?
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, Johanna. Thank you.
All right.
And Jake is here too.
And Sam is here too, and we are all ready to go.
Okay. And we have 12:46 p.m. So welcome back, everybody. And we will begin with item 7.2, review of resolution number 2021-11, authorizing temporary reduction of in-person delivery of county services to the public due to COVID-19 pandemic conditions. And Ms. Hutchinson.
Mr. Chair. So when you adopted resolution 2021-11, your board directed that it would be reviewed every 30 days. And so we have agendized that so you can reconsider whether you want to change any of this authorization. Knowing that this would be on the agenda for today, I did reach out to department heads to ask if they had any issues or concerns relative to this direction, and none were brought to my attention. And so really it's just a matter of reviewing this direction and deciding if it should continue or change.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments or questions from supervisors? Okay, seeing none. I do have a quick question, and maybe it's in the wrong document. Maybe I'm thinking of the other document that we've been working on, because this is a specific time in reduction rather than a work protocol. But wondering if those who have had the potential of getting vaccinated have a way to bypass and say, well, I'm 96% safer because of the vaccination, where I can go ahead and be in the office or things like that. Is that something that would be the work protocol rather than this one?
I suppose it would. We haven't addressed that in the protocol because so few county employees have had the vaccine. So it hasn't become a need yet. The protocol was on the agenda for this morning under consent. So honestly, our thought process has not gone there because there has not been wide vaccination of county employees.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was my only comment. Any further comments, questions? Okay, Jake, if we could please open up the Zoom room for any public comment on item 7.2.
All right, I've sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you would like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
Okay, hearing none, let's go ahead and bring it back to the board. And at this moment, we would just no action taken to continue, or do we need to take some kind of action? I don't think we do.
No action is necessary, sir.
Okay, so it looks like we're ready to move on. So let's go ahead and go to item 7.3, reconsideration of temporary closure of the Board of Supervisors chambers for in-person meetings. Ms. Hutchinson.
And Mr. Chair, this too is something that at the time your board closed the chambers temporarily to in-person meetings, you directed that this discussion be continued during the agenda review phase for each next meeting. And the agenda review group felt that it should just be a standing agenda item so the board can look at it each time. And so here it is.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the board?
Yeah, just a comment. I appreciate it coming back. I know that we'll continue getting those reports from Dr. Pace. It seems like we are seeing somewhat of a decline as we move forward. So I think after we don't have a meeting next week, the conversation on the 20, that'll be the 23rd or 26th, whatever it is, will be a little more in depth probably as we move closer to March. Those are my only comments.
Appreciate the comments, Supervisor. Any further comments or questions? Supervisor Crandall?
Yes, I think too that during that time, just to kind of piggyback off of what Supervisor Simon was saying, we'll know a little more about the numbers, possibly changing and whatnot, so we can adjust because I know that there's a lot of folks that want us to have a lot more business conducted in the chambers and whatnot, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we're not inviting that to heighten our numbers. So,
Okay. Supervisor Prescott?
When we do look to reopen the chambers, I think it's worth looking at how we protect the staff that has to be in there and the other supervisors that are in there. And so, looking at how we would enforce the masking policy, I think has to be part of the discussion.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? Okay. I just from my experience of being in the boardroom during a meeting where there was no staff and it was just Board of Supervisors and the public, I'm good with going with that model until everyone feels comfortable to bring people back. I think it's the ability for the public to actually have a public place to go to and speak. And while I appreciate that there's something outside that's set up, that is not what I feel is the model that we would be aiming for or what was meant when a public meeting was created. But what I'd like to ask the board is, instead of having this conversation weekly, what is our trigger to reopen our chamber? Is it going red? Is it a certain number of cases per week? Because I think if we can have a specific trigger, then we can put this down until further notice or until one of us wants to bring it back to rediscuss. Is it if the state changes the tier model that then we discuss where it is that fits in? I think having a trigger helps everyone understand when things might change rather than just making it that I changed my mind today and I want to reopen. So just wanted to put that out there. That way we don't have the same reoccurring conversation every single week. Supervisor Scott?
I do agree we need to have some sort of trigger. So now that the state is going to be revamping that, I don't think we can look at what that trigger would be, not knowing we're following something that's changing. So most definitely look at that when we see what the state is doing. But we also have to remember we do have staff in there, Sam's in there, and sometimes Jake.
Supervisor Scott?
I was just going to say the same thing. I agree with having a trigger. It makes sense to see what the state comes out with. And if we lose that staff member due to an illness, that's going to set us back significantly. So we really need to protect that staff member who's in there. So Supervisor Sabatier, what are your thoughts on how we could enforce the masking in the chambers?
Well, I know that, for instance, at a business, if you offer a alternative way, such as some people would say, can I shop for you and bring you your groceries, then that's not denying somebody and discriminating against them because they can't wear a mask, because there are exemptions for wearing a mask. Here we have options. You can call in, you can get on Zoom, you can watch it on Granicus. There's ways to view it and there's ways to interact with it. And so the public would not be the only model that's available. And so I think if we chose to go with a hard line of you must mask or else sorry, but you can't be in the chambers, while personally I disagree with that, I think that we've done it in the past. We haven't had any issues and maybe we were lucky. But I would agree to that compromise with the board to say that we can draw that hard line. And that would go for us as well, that we obviously can't be unmasked in the chambers and so on and so forth, equal treatment. But I would also suggest that as a trigger, it would be going into red or review again if the state changes. That way we can create a trigger today rather than continue to wait, because we don't know when the state's going to come out with new guidelines. And I've been hearing about it through our CSAC state phone calls for the last 2 weeks. And nothing has shown up yet. So I would just like to offer that as a trigger because I think it's the easiest way to really say, yes, something different is happening versus just saying 15 cases out of 100,000. I don't even know what that means. But at least there's a statewide process that we've all kind of been used to by looking at these tiered approaches to the safety guidelines.
Yeah, Supervisor Simon here. I would agree that tiered system. We're back on the tiered system. I'd agree that as we're moving through those, I would agree with the red or, as we move out of purple. So I'm in definitely agreement there. I would suggest too, as we kind of transition back out of this, just a suggestion. We've done a great job with the hybrid model of the meetings. And maybe we talk about having 3 members in the chambers to start with and 2 on Zoom, and we can rotate through. Obviously, the chair always needing to be in the meeting, but maybe we could rotate the other 4, so we're not spread all over the room. Because as we remember, just before we closed really shut everything down, we had 3 members up on the diocese, 2 down, on the other chairs. Maybe we could just start with the hybrid coming back in that model, see how it works. Just a suggestion.
Right.
I would definitely agree to that.
And if I may add to that, I would say I agree for myself as the chair, but I wouldn't want to force another person who happens to be chair to be forced to be in a specific environment. If there's a choice, then they can make that choice. But I think that eventually the idea is to have at least a public, standard public facility for people to go to express themselves and be there for the agenda. So is there a consensus to say yes to red tier, reopening or at least discussing what those guidelines will look like to ensure that we do everything appropriately and that we plan to reopen when it's red, or review again and talk again how we fit in within the new tier if the state comes up with a new tiered system?
Agree with
Yes.
that. I'd also add that the mask requirement be in place.
I'm okay with that. And I think that there's consensus for that as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go ahead and open it up to the public and see if there's any public comment on this item 7.3 about the temporary closure of the Board of Supervisor chambers. Jake, if we could please open up the Zoom room.
All right, I've sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
Okay, looks like we have no public comment on this item. And Ms. Hutchinson, I believe you have direction from the board to go ahead and keep this off of the agenda until further notice based on the criteria that we just gave.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. We already did 7.4, 7.5 was moved. Now we are on 7.6, consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 25, floodplain management of the Lake County Code. And I believe I saw Director Scott DeLeon here with us. I do see Ms. Thomas. Ah, there he is.
Good afternoon, board. I'll try to summarize here. The memo, I think, explains what we're doing. Periodically, we get audited through the FEMA and the state DWR regarding our compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program. And you've had several presentations over the last couple of years from myself and previous directors about the most recent evaluation that FEMA did in 2019. And we still have a number of things that we need to correct and issues that we're going to need to continue working on resolving with them. This is one of them, and it's a step in the right direction, frankly, in showing FEMA and DWR that we are taking things seriously and willing to modify certain provisions of our own program to better comply with the NFIP. What we've proposed to you today are a number of minor revisions to the current Chapter 25, which is the floodplain ordinance for Lake County. Chapter 25 is the framework for our NFIP program. It's the framework for how we address the construction of structures within flood hazard zones. And we're proposing a number of, again, minor issues and minor corrections or modifications to various chapters or of that ordinance or provisions in that ordinance. I don't intend to go through each one of them. I'll be happy to answer any specific questions if you've had an opportunity to review them. Again, they're modifications that FEMA wanted to see in our ordinance. In most cases, they make things either a bit more stringent or they provide a little better explanation and detail on the particular requirement. So with that, I'll be happy to try to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Director De Leon. Any questions or comments from the board? I just want to bring up one thing. Earlier, we approved a letter opposing SB 55. Between our flood zone, extra hoops to jump through if you want to do any kind of development, and the idea of high fire threat areas not having development, we are just squeezed. And so I appreciate the work being done by Water Resources to try and get us on the right path to be able to continue development safely and appropriately. And I also appreciate the board for the earlier approval to also continue that potential development in the other areas of our county, because it's important. So I'm going to open it up to the public and see if there's any comments on item 7.6.
All right, I've sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
Thank you, Jake. Okay, we'll go ahead and bring it back to the board and close public comment. And we are looking for approval of the ordinance amendment.
Do we have to motion to waive the reading of the ordinance to have it read in title only?
I believe
Yes,
so.
sir.
So I so moved to do that.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And Johanna, if you can do a roll call and then read the title, please.
Okay. Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall,
Yes.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Okay, and then the title is an ordinance amending specified sections of Chapter 25 of the Lake County Code relating to floodplain management.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Johanna. And motion passes. And moving on to item, I believe, 7.7. Sorry.
Just one more. Don't we have to do the second reading order?
Oh, yeah, we have to say when the next reading will be. Thank you, Supervisor Scott. Would you like to take that on, Supervisor Scott? Since you bring it up.
Motion to advance the ordinance for second reading at the next available board meeting.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Johanna, roll call, please.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Scott, for keeping us on task. Next, same with Director De Leon, 7.7, consideration of change order number 2 for Clayton Creek Road at Clayton Creek Bridge Replacement Project, federal project number BRLO 5914-077, bid number 20-10.
Thank you. This is a change order to address a unforeseen water main that was discovered during construction. During the preliminary engineering phase
Hold
for
on,
all of our projects.
Director De Leon, if I can interrupt you, we lost our county counsel. Just wanted to pause for another second and make sure that she's back. I apologize for that again. I see she's connecting to audio. Are we good, Ms. Grant?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Sorry again, Director De Leon.
That's okay. Thank you. As I was stating, during the preliminary design phase for our projects, what's common is to send out letters to the various utilities that could be in the area. This bridge is in a fairly remote location south of Lower Lake. At the time, it seemed like it was going to be too far removed to be anywhere near the Lower Lake Water District, since it was quite a ways from the town of Lower Lake. But it turns out that the water main was actually owned by Lower Lake Water. It was part of a facility that they have to provide water to another small subdivision quite a ways away. So the design was put together and the contractor needed to construct a temporary bypass. A 10-inch water main is a sizable main. It serves, again, the small subdivision out on Spruce Grove Road, as well as tanks for the Twin Lakes subdivision. So it was a sizable main, and we certainly needed to deal with it. We're managing about, well, I think we have at least 10, maybe 12 bridge projects under design right now with various consultants. And, we do our best to make sure that everyone is notified and contacted. And unfortunately, we missed Lower Lake Water on this particular project. The change order, we needed to address it during construction. So there's going to be some marginally increased costs as a result of needing to do something quickly. But we would have recognized a lot of these costs had we found this water main before construction, because we would have needed to design a bypass and the final construction of the project and the details for hanging the new water line off the side of the bridge. So these costs, a lot of them would have been incorporated into the construction. But in this case, we're handling it with this change order. And I should note that these bridge replacement projects are fully funded through the Highway Bridge Program and California toll credit funds, and there are 0 local funds for these projects. So they're 100% funded through construction. We will have one final change order for this project, and then we will be bringing you a notice of completion very shortly, and we'll present a short photographic history of the bridge and its reconstruction, and you'll be able to see the water line in its completion now hanging on the side of the bridge. So I'll be happy to try to answer any additional questions.
Thank you so much for that report. Any comments or questions from the board?
No, Supervisor Simon, Scott, thank you very much for the update. I was actually on the bridge yesterday, just looking at it, seeing the crane was gone, wanted to go down and check it out. So obviously looks like a good project, complete, almost to completion. The one thing I appreciate you explaining where the funds are coming from for these projects as we move through the process. I know early on in our tour, just like Jessica's going through right now, we went with you at Public Works. Me and Supervisor Scott looked at some of the other projects that are being done. And thank you for the continual work in the county and to stay a part of this program as we try and replace these bridges. So thank you very much. And thank you for the explanation on the funding source.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other comments or questions? All right, Jake, let's go ahead and please open up the Zoom room and see if we have any public comment.
All right, I've sent a meet request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
Okay, hearing none, let's go ahead and bring it back to the board for action.
One second, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I'll recommend to approve the Board of Supervisors CCO number 2, and that the board authorize the chair to execute said change order for an increase of $212,450 and a revised contract amount of $1,826,113.40, and the chair to sign.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. And Johanna, if we could please have a roll call.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, board.
Yep, thank you. We look forward to those pictures. I think it's gold plated, silver plated at 212,000. All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll discuss that during our notice of completion. The federal funds bring some unique design elements and some unique challenges to these projects. So we'll be happy to address that when we do our notice of completion.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on, 7.8. Consideration of agreement between the County of Lake and the California State Franchise Tax Board for fiscal year 2020 through 2023, and authorize a treasurer tax collector to sign. And do we have Ms. Ringen here? I see Ms. Martinez. And let's see. I'm going to send an unmute to Ms. Martinez in case she is the one presenting this to us, because I do not see Ms. Ringen. I don't know if we're having a technical difficulty with Ms. Martinez.
I'll contact her by text, Mr. Chair.
Please, thank you so much, Ms. Hutchinson.
I did set Liz Martinez up with co-host, so she has the ability to unmute herself.
Okay, well, while we wait, let's go ahead and keep moving and hit up our 7.1 item, our supervisor's weekly calendar and travel and reports. And let's start with Supervisor Scott.
Okay, tomorrow I have an All Children Thrive meeting at 1 o'clock and 2:30 Smart Start Bright Future meeting, both dealing with our youth and bringing programs in to help our youth. Tomorrow, I have constituent meetings in the morning, and then I'll be attending the Lakeport Unified School District Board meeting on Thursday afternoon. On the Lakeport School Board, they will also be replacing their superintendent. So that's going to be something that's going to be in the progress there. On Friday, there's no school, so I'll be dealing with all the kids home and just taking emails and phone calls. On Saturday, there'll be an auction online to support the junior class of Clear Lake High School. They have all kinds of auction items that they already have up, and then I will be auctioning off a Valentine's cake to help support the class that day. And then Valentine's Day on Monday, President's Day, or Valentine's Day Sunday, President's Day Monday. On Tuesday, we do not have a meeting here at the Board of Supervisors. I have a 9 o'clock meeting with the Hope Rising Board. We're looking to replace our CAO, our executive director there. We're sad to see her go. Wednesday, 1 o'clock, another All Children's Thrive meeting. On the 18th, I have a Lake County Continuum of Care Executive Committee meeting in the morning. And then at 3 o'clock, mental health, behavioral health board meeting. And pretty open, and then back here on the 23rd.
Thank you very much, Supervisor. And let's go with Supervisor Simon.
Board meeting is after today. I'll finish up this tomorrow. I have a full calendar. I do have a conflict tomorrow. There's the Economic Development Task Force, but I'll have the Lake Transit Authority Area Planning Council. I'll work that out with Carol. Hopefully you can get that recorded and get that to me, but I won't be able to attend because I have the LTA meeting tomorrow. So I'm going to attend that. And then in the afternoon, I have a meeting with Senator McGuire. Senator McGuire's office at 2:30, I think we have scheduled on Thursday. Don't have anything on the calendar right now, but on Friday, we're spending at least half of the day. We have our Risk Reduction Authority retreat, kind of getting lined out for our year. So that's going to be a good workshop that we've been needing to do for a while. And the 14th is Valentine's Day, President's Day. So next week, kind of open calendar until Friday. I have appointment with grand jury on Friday, and then on the 22nd, have the recovery work group and also the Risk Reduction Authority meeting, and then back here on the 23rd. I think that's all. Okay.
Thanks, Supervisor. Let's go with Supervisor Pyska.
So tomorrow morning, I have my orientation with Sheriff Martin. 6 o'clock is the Middletown Unified School District Board meeting. Thursday, I'm having a call with Melissa Fulton. Then Supervisor Sabatier and I are attending an informational session with Gare. I have the reopening committee for Middletown Unified, an orientation with Maria Valdez, which is my last one.
Congratulations.
Thank you. For this round anyway, then I'm going to go out on tours when I can do that. The risk reduction retreat is on Friday. I don't think I have anything on the 15th, the 16th.
You want us to fix that? Just kidding.
On the 17th, I have a CSAC new supervisor workshop. Cavern check-in that evening, as usual on Wednesdays. There's a CAC meeting on the 18th at 6:30. The 19th, I'm going on a tour with Pro Farms. The 22nd is the Risk Reduction Authority, but I do have a couple things to report on from the week. I had my call with Congressman Thompson's office last Wednesday, and we did talk about a co-ed director, and he recognizes the importance of that role as well, and he's looking into some congressional funding opportunities, or also some other grants that we could go after, and he would support us in going after those grants once he identifies those avenues. So those are some federal opportunities, but there's some state, federal, or some state funding too that could work out to help in that role. And the LISTOS 2.0 funding round, which is separate than the NCO last funding round with LISTOS, could potentially help fund that for a couple of years too. So those are the options that we're looking at. There's an additional option through Behavioral Health and Mental Health Services Act. So I just wanted to let you all know that I've been really working on the avenues for getting this director in place, but we can bring that back to the board and have that discussion another time. The storm continues to affect the Cobb area from a couple weeks ago. We have had our cell towers down. The AT&T tower on top of Cobb Mountain the power's been lost to that, the electricity. So they've been relying on the generators, and the generators run out of fuel. And so we again had 2.5 days where a lot of the people in the community did not have cell service. And I'd like you to also keep in mind, they don't have landlines or internet either because of the infrastructure damage during this storm. So Sheriff Martin and I have been in close contact over the past several days. He's really been working on AT&T to keep that generator fully fueled, but there have been some times when they couldn't get up there or didn't, or we're not sure. But at the end of the day, I'm hearing from my constituents that they don't have service. My service is impacted, but at least I have one bar during times like this. And then I'm telling Sheriff Martin, and that's not a good solution for our providers when this is critical infrastructure. They should be letting us know when their service is interrupted. So I think we're going to be taking some next steps with that, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it tomorrow on how we fix this solution. I know that there was legislation by McGuire that I don't believe was passed about generation for critical infrastructure during disasters. So we really need to keep pushing this. We know that we don't have enough coverage in our county, and this is another reason why we need some redundancy. So that's been the cell tower issue that we've been working on. I also toured Elijah House with Supervisor Scott, and it was really amazing to see. It was a great community there, a lot of hard work and dedication, and I'm really grateful I got to go on that tour. That's it.
Thank you very much, Supervisor. Supervisor Crandall.
Yes, thank you. Just to start off with, last week the East Region Town Hall finally conducted a committee meeting. It was only 40 minutes, but we'll work those quirks out. The main thing is just getting one done. They haven't had one since March, so that was very important to have. The CSA, I went out to that as well. They've been having theirs, but there's only like 6 people in attendance. They can social distance. So those are some meetings that I've been a part of. Today, after this, I think we have a agenda review. Tomorrow, I have RCRC from 9 to, I'm not sure how long it's going to last.
You never know.
Yeah. And then there's also the retirement half hour for Greg Norton that they'll be having during around that time, but I'm not sure if that'll conflict with anything else that I may need to do, because I see that, I think Moke said he's booked, and I know you said you're double booked. So there's something that I can help with on one of those. I'll be, after that meeting, I can do what I can. But either way, Thursday, I'll just look at this. I wrote it down. I seen the Clean Water Program Management Council meeting. I'm not sure. I know I've been sent an invitation, so I'll just be ready to go to it like I did last week for the mental health one. I found out that there was already some supervisors in the last week's meeting, so I just left so that we didn't do any Brown Act violations. But with this one, I'll make sure I attend it. Same concept. And then we have a special CSA meeting at 7 p.m. at Spring Valley. Let's see, Friday constituent meetings. Actually, I forgot to mention Wednesday evening. It's one of the biggest things I have. Nice residents have put together a community meeting to discuss kind of what you've heard us talk about in lieu of the criminal activity in Nice, and just thinking of other ways to help as a community so that we're not just hoping that this can fix anything. There's things that we can do to educate, organize, and work together to kind of combat this issue as well. And I think that's going to play a key role in Lake County's dealings with some of this criminal activity, because they're so emboldened, and it's also the times of COVID. I was really glad that the district attorney mentioned too that it's hard to keep them charged in custody. That's another issue as well. So we understand all that folks are just frustrated. It's not just them. There's probably a third of what other communities that I have that weren't in on the call today, but that's okay. So we're hoping to connect these and link these folks together so we can have plans in each area to do this and bolster up our own community watches and whatnot to take care of this issue. Friday, so with that, Friday constituent meetings. The week after, of course, so I don't have anything planned on, of course, the Tuesday just as of yet. But there will be a West Region Town Hall, so they'll be meeting for the first time since March. on Zoom. And then Friday will be a Lucerne area town hall, and then back here for the CAO meeting, and then Board of Supervisors on Tuesday the 23rd.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So on my schedule that I had this past week, I wanted to let everybody know I joined the Rural Caucus of California for CSAC. And I asked to, for COVID-19, and this is something that I had discussions with our CAO and our public health officer as well. I asked for CSAC to start looking into the future of what does COVID-19 look like 2 years from now? What are the expectations? How do we keep schools open? How do we keep businesses open? We need to start looking at what that looks like, because the overall, with the variants coming through and not having the same impact, or not being impacted the same by the vaccines, and with also our populations not necessarily meeting the threshold of herd immunity, that we will definitely be continuing to see the impacts of COVID-19 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. And CSAC is going to start having discussions for rural communities. What does that look like, so we can prescribe guidelines to the state of California before guidelines are provided to us. Also joined CPUC for a meeting of environmental and social justice. I advocated that while most of the issues of environmental and social justice has to deal with like mines being in poor areas, smokestack industrial businesses being in more poverty stricken areas, I advocated about the opposite, which is the absolute lack of infrastructure being installed in lower income areas, and not just the environmental issues that come from development. And so we need to make sure and advocate that we have electricity, that we have internet, that we have those things, because that puts us at a loss if we have such a fragile infrastructure. Also, I always forget her first name, but I know her last name is Aceves Guzman, or Guzman Aceves. We met with her during the PSPS. She was at that meeting as well. She's a commissioner for the CPUC, and she's also a part of the groups every single time that the CPUC discusses water districts, which I already brought to the board. So she's starting to really know who I am and recognize that Lake County is really looking to move the dial on certain things. So I think we're doing a good job as a group of supervisors to advocate at the CPUC level. Appreciate staff taking the time to answer a lot of my questions, especially with mid-year budget review. Definitely appreciated the extra time spent on that so I can be prepared for today's meeting. We do not have agenda review today, as we do not have a meeting next week, but I'm sure that we will have one soon for the 23rd. I seem to have a pretty open schedule. Let me talk about this week first. So I knew I had an economic development task force meeting on Wednesday, but I didn't recognize that it wasn't on my calendar. So it would appear, Supervisor Simon, that I will not be able to attend the LTA meeting at all. I want to make sure and be at, I have both a conversation with CDFA happening at 9 a.m., which I already emailed you about and let you know. But then also I have the EDTF that I want to make sure and make sure that we're moving along. Then later on, I have a meeting where we will be discussing a project happening in South County later on that afternoon. And then on Thursday, there's a CSAC board meeting, which I will be attending, and same as RCRC, you never know when those are over. They even have lunch typically in the agenda. Clean water program, and then also the GARE. And GARE, just to kind of provide some insight, it's basically a anti-bias curriculum. It's a diversity curriculum, something of the kind that Supervisor Paiska and I will just be intending for informative purposes to see if that's something that we can bring back to the board as an option of something for us to get involved in. Then on Friday, the CAO and the public health officer and I will be meeting. I also have a call with a cannabis consultant later on that evening. And then the following week is fairly empty at this moment in time, which is good because I think my kids are off all week of school, so that's going to be helpful. But it looks like we have an agenda review on that Tuesday. I have a marketing committee on that Wednesday. I have a CARES Act emergency broadband benefit briefing on Thursday, a CSAC call on Thursday, and then a city council meeting for the city of Clear Lake on Thursday as well. Coming back here on the 22nd for a COVID recovery meeting, a meeting with the CAO, and a CSAC phone call to get up to date on what's happening with the state level COVID-19 data. And then back here on the 23rd for our meeting. And that concludes my report, and we have a redo from Supervisor Pyska.
Oh, I was just wondering if Supervisor Simon, if it would be okay if I went to the Economic Development Task Force meeting if you were not able to make it.
I think we have committee assignments and alternates, correct?
There is no alternate for that one, I don't believe.
We don't have an alternate for that one?
I don't believe so. I can look it up.
It's two members and no alternate. I think that we had an alternate before, but we just got rid of the alternate. Let's, if it's possible, if we could discuss that offline, just to kind of figure out how that would work and make sure that we don't have any kind of Brown Act violations whatsoever. Okay. And just go for it.
One last thing too, I missed, I have the Middletown Area Town Hall this Thursday. I missed that on my calendar.
Nice, nice. And just real quick, the Economic Development Task Force, I will be bringing in some information about paper parcels, but then the main discussion will be around housing. Okay, so that concludes our reports. Let's go ahead and go back to agenda item 7.8. And again, just to repeat, it's the consideration of agreement between the County of Lake and the California State Franchise Tax Board for fiscal year 2020 to 2023 and authorize the treasurer tax collector to sign. And it looks like we have Ms. Martinez with us.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good afternoon.
So this agreement before you today is one that our office has had in place for many years. This agreement allows our office to refer court fines that have gone delinquent for more than 90 days. FTB has additional resources that they can use to collect such fines, such as they can do wage garnishments and food levies. And as stated in the memo, if there's no cost to the county, they collect an administrative fee of up to 15%. On those accounts that they are able to collect on.
So that was very difficult to hear. Does anybody, let me ask first, does anybody on the supervisors need anything repeated or any questions or comments?
I wasn't really able to understand any of it.
Okay, is there a way that you might be able to, I don't know if you need to get closer to the microphone or if you need to clean it off of your computer and try again?
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So this agreement before you today is one that our office has had in place for many years. This agreement allows our office to refer court fines that have gone delinquent for more than 90 days. FTB has additional resources that they can use to collect fines such as wage garnishments or bank levies. And with regards to the cost to the county, there is no cost. What happens is FTB takes an administrative fee of up to 15% of those accounts that they collect on.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Okay, and if I understood you correctly, and I don't think I got that from the memo, this is a renewal of an agreement that was already there in existence prior?
That's correct.
Or is this, okay, so it's not a new agreement, it's just a renewal of an agreement with 2020 to 2023. Okay. So without questions or comments from the board, let's go ahead, Jake, please open up the Zoom room and see if we have any public comment on this item.
All right, I've sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
Okay, hearing none, let's go ahead and close public comment. Any further questions or comments from the board before we take action? So I just wanted to say one thing. I think that the Franchise Tax Board is one of our most useful allies in getting some of these things done. And I hope that, I know that there's some work being done. We've been discussing administrative fines going through the Franchise Tax Board at the AVA. There's been discussions about it when we've had conversations about code enforcement. And so I'm looking at Ms. Hutchinson and hoping that we can carry this conversation on to maybe open it up to the entire county having that level of access to the Franchise Tax Board versus maybe a department by department agreement. Not sure if that's possible or not, but if we can look into that.
Will do.
Okay. All right, looking for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the agreement and authorize the treasurer tax collector to sign.
And would you be able to be more specific on the agreement just in case?
The agreement between County of Lake and the California State Franchise Tax Board for fiscal year 2020 through 2023.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Johanna, if we can please get a roll call.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Johanna. All right, that concludes, I believe, oh, Supervisor Crandall.
Yes, I don't know if you mentioned it, Supervisor Sabatier, but the 2x2x2 on Friday at 2 p.m. with the Potter Valley situation.
And that would be on the 12th?
Yes, I forgot it. I think you might have mentioned it, but I'm just reminding that I'll be doing that.
I will put it on here. Thank you very much. Okay, so I believe that concludes all of our...
Mr. Chair, I was wondering if we could reopen calendars. We could address some of the meetings tomorrow. The board would entertain that.
It's not something that we vote on. I believe we can just reopen calendars. Go for it.
All right, excellent. You know, we have the conflicting meetings tomorrow, and I know that we have the EDTF and the LTA. I know you're not going to be attending. And looking at it, I think Tina, I don't know if you're busy tomorrow, but I know the LTA. I think you're the alternate on the LTA APC.
What time is that meeting?
From 9 a.m.
The 8th. Yeah, 9 to about 11:30 tomorrow.
Could you send me the link? Because I think I deleted it since I wasn't going to be going off my calendar. So if you could resend that to me, I would appreciate it. And I'll be there.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tina.
Good idea. So again, I believe that we've concluded all of our items on our agenda except for a closed session. Just kind of checking in, making sure I didn't skip anything. And if not, then we will be going to closed session. We have two items. 8.1, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, Center for Biological Diversity versus County of Lake et al. 8.2, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, California Native Plant Society versus County of Lake et al. And that will be our closed session. Thank you everyone for joining us for our regular meeting. And we will go ahead and break out to a closed session room.
Actually, Mr. Chair, we're just going to stay right here and we'll have Jake clear the room and make me the host and then we'll secure the room after that.